Hi, my name is Ben Frank, and I'm planning to run for Congress in Utah's 3rd Congressional District in 2018. The current incumbent of this district is Jason Chaffetz. In this video, I'll introduce myself, I'll explain why I believe I'm the best candidate, and I will talk about an issue that's very important to me, which is campaign finance reform. So again, my name is Ben Frank, and I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've spent many years working in mental health. That has become a very serious passion of mine, and I believe that mental health issues are greatly neglected and need a lot more representation in Congress. I began working in mental health when I was about 18 years old. I worked for a group home of 4 adult male people with developmental disabilities. I still love those clients dearly. I eventually managed that home. I went on to work into foster care, and then I managed an apartment complex for people with disabilities before moving to the University Neuropsychiatric Institute here in Salt Lake, where I was a psych tech. I worked with a wide range of people with mental health needs, from young autistic people to senior citizens to people with drug and alcohol issues, veterans, refugees, a wide range of populations and acuities. And I still go there to volunteer on a weekly basis. I teach meditation and coping skills, and I also do that at the Utah State Prison, which I get a great satisfaction doing that. So since working at uni, I went to work at Recovery Ways, where I worked until the summer of 2016, when I had to leave because I was no longer able to work due to multiple sclerosis. Since then, I have gone back to school, and like I said, I continue my volunteer work up at the Neuropsychiatric Institute as well as at the prison. I got involved into politics when I was about 16. It began with veganism and animal rights movement, and then I moved into concentrating more on like foreign policy, the war in Iraq, and since then, I've volunteered with Wolfpack, working with local legislators on campaign finance reform, as well as I volunteered with the Bernie Sanders for President campaign in 2016. And so that's a little bit about me. I'll respond to any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, what have you. And now talking about campaign finance reform. This is the most important issue because before we address this, we can't address anything. We can't address war because of the massive amounts of money that military contracts give to campaigns. We can't address healthcare because of the massive amounts of money that pharmaceutical companies give to campaigns. Really, to compete in a campaign, the general thought is you have to take corporate money. It takes a lot of money. I'm not taking corporate money. I will go the whole campaign without taking corporate money, and I think that Senator Sanders proved that you don't need corporate money to compete. And so that's a reason why I would be a great candidate, because I'm not taking corporate money. I don't have that conflict of interest. Another great reason is my compassion and hard work, as I've demonstrated in mental health. Also, I'm a nerd and I love policy. I read things about Supreme Court cases and the laws and how they affect things, and I have issues I'm very passionate about that I can represent well. And these issues are generally the majoritarian stance. For example, campaign finance reform, single-payer health care. These are issues that most people agree on. However, people in Congress taking this money from corporations can't adequately represent and fight for these issues. Campaign finance reform. Most people like to focus on the Citizens United decision, which Citizens United is very important. However, the campaign finance system was out of control long before Citizens United. I would say that the problem really started in 1887 with Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad, in which it was ruled that corporations have the rights, constitutional rights of everyday people. And then in 1976, in Buckley versus Vallejo, the Supreme Court ruled that spending money on campaigns equates to speech. And so these are problematic because it grants corporations this voice that is much more powerful than a normal citizen could possibly have. Because these are legal fictions that can exist forever and can compile money and influence campaigns. And when they influence campaigns, they get more access to incumbents to push for their policies, which their policies oftentimes are against the interests of consumers, of workers, of the environment. And really, it's just an unfair system because in the United States, we value one person, one vote. And our system does have one person, one vote, but who we vote for is determined by this process of gatekeeping in our campaign finances. And you have to be viable for these corporations to, give you enough money so you can compete. I do think that we're in an exciting time because Senator Sanders had proven that you can generate great fundraising without corporations. And in my race in Utah, I hope to continue that tradition. I'm not taking corporate money, so I can be free to represent these issues that I feel very passionately about. And so what I propose for campaign finance reform, because we have 3 Supreme Court decisions we must overturn, which, for the case of Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad, has been well over 100 years since that decision was made, is probably never going to be overturned. Buckley versus Vallejo has a long-standing precedent. Citizens United, most likely, especially with the current structure of the Supreme Court, probably won't be overturned. And so, we need a constitutional amendment, a 28th Amendment, that clearly states that corporations are not people, they cannot give to candidates, and we would have strict spending restrictions on candidates and make campaigns mostly publicly funded. And this would happen if I got elected to Congress. 2/3 of Congress can agree to a limited convention to pass an amendment. We are the only generation to not pass an amendment. The last one, the 27th Amendment, granted 18-year-olds the right to vote because they were off fighting in war but didn't have the right to vote. So there's a long precedent for constitutional amendments, and this one is absolutely necessary if we're to get anything done. Conservatives aren't represented, progressives aren't represented because, the working class, we don't have enough money as individuals, to influence campaigns in the way Goldman Sachs or the Koch brothers do. And so that is why I feel passionately about that issue. A common concern in regards to proposing a constitutional amendment is this common misconception called the Runaway Convention. And this was popularized by the John Birch Society to try to dissuade people from supporting changes to the Constitution. And basically the myth says that when a constitutional amendment is proposed, anything and everything is up for grabs in the Constitution. And a lot of people are very afraid that this will affect marriage equality, gun control, freedom of speech, anything, However, when a limited convention is called for, the only issue they can discuss is the one being proposed. So in my dream 28th Amendment convention that we have, limited convention, the only thing you can discuss is corporate personhood, money equating to speech in campaign finance, as well as, if it's constitutional to limit campaign finance. And so I believe the only way to really have an effective strategy for campaign finance reform is we got to make a constitutional amendment. Most people support this, and that's why I should be in Congress, because I also support it, and I can be credible to fight for it because I'm not taking money from these corporations whom I want to limit their ability to influence campaigns. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. Again, my name is Ben Frank, and I'm going to be running for Congress in Utah's 3rd Congressional District in 2018. My website is www.ben4congress.org, and if you could help out by spreading the word, and since we're not funded by corporations, any small donation would be very appreciated. Thank you.